I was never a huge fan of Dragon Ball. Of course, I watched and absolutely loved it as a child, and like everyone else, I gave my best trying to make Kamehameha. Even today, I can turn on an episode and still enjoy it. However, I can't say that I was ever attached to the show. It wasn't close to me and I couldn't find a real connection with the plot or the characters. Over the years, my taste has changed and today I prefer different kinds of stories and themes. Although I love Dragon Ball, I feel like it would be hypocritical to pretend that this anime and manga changed my life. That would be like spitting in the face of this legend, and he deserves so much more than that. However, while the series itself didn't have a huge impact on me, I have nothing but respect for Dragon Ball and would never allow myself to downplay the importance of this story. Like it or not, without Dragon Ball, many of our favorite shows wouldn't exist. It inspired so many authors, and some of them became mangaka in the first place because of this series. A lot of the tropes we see in modern shounen came from Dragon Ball. Many beloved and well-known protagonists who are the face of the anime industry today were inspired by Goku. Heck, my favorite show of all time, One Piece, wouldn't be the same without Akira Toriyama and his work. Fairy Tail, the show that got me into anime in the first place, wouldn't even exist, as Toriyama was the one who inspired Hiro Mashima to become mangaka. And for these reasons, I respect and admire this man. Even if you are not a fan of the series itself, the anime you love was inspired by it, and without Dragon Ball's influence, there is a good chance your favorite show would be completely different, or maybe even non-existent. That's how far the impact of Dragon Ball goes. And I haven't even explained in detail its influence on pop culture or how it has affected the mentality of so many people. There's just so much to say, and I want to leave this to those who were directly influenced by this series' messages and philosophy. The part that intrigued me is the presence of Akira Toriyama in almost all segments of this industry. I always knew how big his name was, but this just shocked me. After the news of his death, videos and articles about his life and work started popping up. Out of curiosity and respect, I decided to check some of them. And while reading about his work, I came across something that genuinely surprised me. Apparently, he worked as a character designer for the game and anime Blue Dragon. I'm not sure if this means anything to you, but for me, this was huge. Knowing that Akira Toriyama was involved in another important part of my childhood is just mind-blowing. Like, okay, we all know Dragon Ball, and many of us have at least heard of Dr. Slump. And when we are talking about character design, the majority know him for Dragon Quest. But Blue Dragon? I can't talk about its global popularity because I don't know enough about it, but what I do know is that this anime was one of the most loved among my peers and is one of the very few that got dubbed in my native language. This is easily one of the best anime I watched as a kid, and the fact that this legend worked on it makes me so happy. But besides designing the characters, Toriyama also had high expectations for this series. While preparing this video, I came across this. Studio Pirate, which you probably know for Naruto, Bleach, Great Teacher Onizuka, Yu Yu Hakusho, and many more, approached Toriyama about an anime adaptation. And he had this to say. I knew that Sakaguchi had been working on assembling stuff to produce a game, although at the time Blue Dragon hadn't yet been formally announced. According to the materials, it was to be a fantasy world like Lord of the Rings, with a detailed world view and story. This may be my final anime, I'm a little worried. There is incredible pressure, but at the same time there is a sense of accomplishment, that it's worth doing. Blue Dragon will be a masterpiece, not simply because I'm working hard on it, but because the staff expects nothing less. For those who don't know, the story follows Shu, a boy whose dream is to become a Knight Master's apprentice. When he hears that a knight is in his village, he goes in a search of him hoping to get a master. However, the knight turns out to be a woman named Zola who is on a mission with her acquaintance Jiro. She refuses to teach Shu as she is not a knight, leaving him disappointed and angry. Soon after, Shu's village is attacked by the Grand Kingdom, and unable to do anything he asks Zola for help, but she refuses as it's none of her business. This angers him even more, and Shu decides to take matters in his own hands. But fighting a much stronger and better equipped opponent doesn't go exactly as planned. Shu's friends are captured and he is injured. As everything seems lost, he gets saved by Zola and Jiro, who seem to change their mind. That's when we get introduced to shadows, powerful monsters that a very few can summon. With her shadow, Killer Bat, Zola clears the army and saves the village. However, Shu's friends are still in danger and he charges to save them. Watching them almost getting crushed, something snaps in Shu, and he awakens his own shadow, the Blue Dragon. Thanks to it, Shu is able to save his friends and ends the rest of the army. In order to learn about his new power and protect the world from Grand Kingdom, Shu, together with his friend Kluke, decides to go with Zola and Jiro. Whether it's a masterpiece or not, it's up to you to decide. As for me, The Blue Dragon is a very special story, and not just because of childhood nostalgia. The main reason I remember this story so fondly is the characters. From their design and powers to their behavior and development, I love absolutely everything, and can say with confidence that Blue Dragon does so many things better than today's shonen. One of the aspects that I particularly love is the balance in behavior of the characters. The main cast, apart from Zola, consists of a bunch of 12-year-old children. They were born into a world torn by war, where they had to grow up quickly, and as owners of the shadows, it's their duty to save the sad world. That's why we have characters like Jiro and Kluke, who are much more mature than their peers. Jiro is by far the most serious member of the group. Although he's only 12, he has already been through hell. He acts like an adult, and if it weren't for his height, you would think that he was the same age as Zola. Kluke is not as serious as Jiro, but I would dare to say that she is much more mature. She is very intelligent in so many ways, and just as she can make good plans and powerful weapons, she also understands people well and offers them a great support, which is not common for a child her age. The villains are no exception to this, so we have Andropov, who is a combination of these two personalities. Although he is the youngest member of his team and the only child, he is also the smartest and most serious one. Others, while much more childish than these three, also have to be grown-ups most of the time, as the safety of the world depends on them. All of them are forced to fight battles and make decisions that no 12-year-old child should ever experience. However, there is another side to the story that gives depth to these characters. At the end of the day, all of them, no matter what they've been through, are still children. They still want to have fun and explore. They don't understand much, and no matter how many horrors they've seen, they all still believe in the goodness of humans. They have a hard time accepting the tragedy and death of loved ones, and still do not fully understand the concept of life and death. They often don't listen to what they are told and can be annoying as hell. They have insecurities to overcome and need validation. Even the most mature of them are firstly kids, then everything else. Jiro, although always serious, is impulsive, and all his maturity disappears when he is with Shu. Kluke, even though brilliant and emotionally intelligent, suffers from inferiority complex and is always afraid of being a burden to the team, which is why she constantly needs validation. Andropov, usually a cool character, endangers his team and the mission because he develops a crush on Kluke. And this list just goes on. The show really did an amazing job when it came to the children's behavior in these circumstances. I'm still so impressed with this that I'm willing to completely ignore all of the show's flaws. Toriyama's presence in this project reminded me of a great series that I adored as a child. But more importantly, after learning this information and making this video, I got the opportunity to once again see the greatness of this man. His work went beyond mere entertainment and left an inedible mark in the world of fiction as well in the people themselves. His name will never be forgotten, and his works, as well as those he inspired, will be read for a long time. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama.